HOA police pulled a gun on my wife. Didn't know she's Delta Force and still active. The HOA cops aimed a weapon at my wife. They had no clue she was with Delta Force and still active. She was simply tending to the rose bushes when a black SUV screeched to a halt right outside our driveway. No license plates, no official insignia. Two men stepped out dressed like security personnel, but something was off. No ID tags, no name badges, just radios clipped on, and that artificial bravado you see in people who've never faced real danger. One of them leveled his gun at her. "Keep your hands visible," he barked. "You're trespassing on HOA protected property." I was inside watching through the window, frozen in place, not out of fear, but because I couldn't wrap my head around what I was witnessing. These guys had zero authority, no valid reason, and absolutely no idea who they were dealing with. She didn't flinch. She stared right at the one aiming the weapon and said in a calm voice, "You've got 5 seconds to drop that gun." He chuckled, cocky and ignorant. "Oh yeah? Or what?" And then I noticed it. The shift in her stance, the subtle pivot of her foot, the slight curl of her fingers. I recognized it. I'd seen that exact posture before. Once when she neutralized a drunk man at a subway station in under 4 seconds. No shouting, no movement, just pure control. But the guy holding the weapon? He started sweating. He backed up slightly, still aiming, but his eyes betrayed uncertainty. His partner picked up on it. "What's going on?" he asked. She's not just some lady," the first one muttered. And he was right. She wasn't. She was Delta Force, not retired. The second guy didn't buy it. "Delta Force? Yeah, okay," he scoffed, stepping in like he had the upper hand. But her gaze didn't budge. She wasn't even looking at him. Her eyes stayed locked on the first man. Her expression didn't change, but I could tell her mind was already racing, distances, angles, exits, everything. "You're faking law enforcement," she said, her voice low and controlled. "That's a felony." "We're with the HOA," he snapped. "This is our turf. You people weren't cleared to reside here." I walked out onto the porch. My voice stayed steady, but every syllable carried weight. "This home was purchased outright through a federal relocation initiative. You're trespassing on private property." They didn't flinch. Suddenly, the first man raised his weapon again, this time pointing it at both of us. "You've got 10 seconds to pack your things and go. This neighborhood doesn't permit military families." And right there, the shift happened. It wasn't in her stance or her hands, but the atmosphere changed. Even the birds stopped chirping. The man aiming the gun must have sensed it. His grip faltered slightly. My wife took a single step forward. "You just threatened a federal agent on U.S. territory while wielding an unregistered firearm." The man blinked. "What?" I reached into my pocket for my phone. My cousin works dispatch at the county sheriff's office, and I'd been live streaming the entire encounter since they pulled up. "Smile for the sheriff," I said, turning the screen toward them. They still didn't stand down, one muttered. "The HOA doesn't take orders from the sheriff. We report directly to the board." That's when it all fell into place. This had nothing to do with the HOA. It wasn't about breaking some neighborhood code. It had never been about the lawn or the roses. They came knowing exactly who we were and came anyway. Her breathing shifted slightly. Most wouldn't notice, but I knew the sign. She was done waiting. She turned her back on them, slow and deliberate, walking to the porch planter. Beneath it sat a locked metal box, bolted into the deck. No hurry. She knelt, punched in the code, and opened it. The two men watched, uncertain. The one with the gun gave his partner a nervous glance, like things weren't playing out the way they'd imagined. She rose, holding a black leather binder, worn, with a silver eagle pressed into the cover. "You want board documentation?" she asked, flipping it open. "Here's the Department of Defense housing contract. This property is assigned to active duty personnel under national security relocation orders." The second guy squinted. That can't be right. We didn't get any kind of alert. You weren't meant to, I said, stepping forward. Because you're not listed on any legitimate registry. You're not HOA, you're not law enforcement. And that badge on your vest? I moved in, plucked it off with 2 fingers, and let it drop to the ground. Plastic. The guy with the weapon began to sweat again, this time visibly. His arm lowered just a bit, not enough to show surrender, but enough to show he wanted a way out. But she wasn't done yet. You aimed a weapon at a Delta Force operative on federally assigned property while pretending to be law enforcement. Do you even grasp what you've just done? Nothing, just dead silence. Then she tapped the mic clip to her collar. Bravo 9 to Sentinel. Target confirmed. Possible federal violation in progress. Requesting visual units for detainment. Both men went pale. What the hell is this? The second one muttered. That's when they realized. This wasn't about self-defense anymore. She wasn't just responding to a threat. She was the response. The smug one, the one who aimed first, took a shaky step backward like he might bolt. His hand still gripped the gun, but it was obvious he didn't want to be holding it anymore. His partner was frozen in place, wide-eyed and stunned, struggling to process what just hit them. The swagger they walked in with? Gone. Just walk away. Let's call it in. The second guy whispered, barely audible. But it was already too late. She pressed the mic again. Sentinel, this is Bravo 9, confirming unauthorized personnel on site. Armed suspects, requesting immediate assistance. I couldn't hear any sirens yet, but judging by the fear in their eyes, maybe they could. Or maybe they just realized the help they thought they had wasn't coming. And then it happened. The distant wail of real sirens sliced through the air. Red and blue lights flashed from down the block. This time it wasn't any HOA patrol vehicle rolling in. These were actual county deputies. Real uniforms, real badges, real jurisdiction. My wife turned to them, composed and cool. You made the wrong call. The man with the gun finally gave up, let the weapon drop onto the grass with a soft, heavy thud. His partner stood there, trembling. Neither waited for the sheriff's door to open. One dropped to his knees. The other tried to run, but didn't even get halfway down the street before a deputy took him down hard. The sheriff stepped out, towering and unreadable. His eyes swept over the scene. The binder, the collar mic, the weapon in the grass, the 2 imposters. He looked at my wife and gave her a respectful nod. You always deliver, ma'am. Then he turned to the guy still kneeling. Impersonating. An officer? That's the end of the line. As the cuffs clicked shut, something settled inside me. Not just relief, justice. She didn't say a word. Just gave me that look, half smirk, half warning. And as the sheriff led them off, one of the men looked back at her. This time his eyes weren't defiant, they were afraid. As the squad car turned the corner and vanished, silence settled over the neighborhood. Not peaceful silence. The kind that's heavy, thick, like every neighbor was holding their breath behind a curtain. I glanced around and spotted blinds shifting. A couple doors opened, just a crack. No one had intervened, no one had helped, but every single one had been watching. She stayed still, gaze fixed on the street. Not because she wasn't satisfied, because she wasn't finished. Then she turned toward me and I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't thinking about those 2 clowns. She was already thinking about whoever sent them. This wasn't some HOA scare tactic, she said. This was planned. I nodded. You think they were trying to rattle you? She shook her head. No. They wanted to see what I'd do. A shiver ran through me. She turned and walked back into the house, calm, sharp, focused. I followed, her inside, still feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. The moment the door closed behind us, my phone buzzed. A message from the sheriff came through. This goes deeper than we expected. They're tied into a larger operation, spanning multiple counties. Seems like military families are being singled out. She scanned the message over my shoulder, then met my eyes. They're not after properties, they're after power. She was right. This had nothing to do with lawn regulations or HOA rules. This was something far more calculated. And now, they knew we wouldn't go down quietly. Just as she sat down to comb through the porch camera footage, we heard it. A soft creak, something at the front door. I opened it slowly. On the welcome mat was a plain white envelope. No name, no seal. Inside was a single sentence printed in stark black letters. "You're not done. You can't win." I showed it to her. She didn't react. Just tore it straight down the center. They have no clue who they're messing with. The rest of the day passed like we were living in a fishbowl. Every little sound from outside made us tense. The sprinklers turning on, a car idling too long at the curb. Even the fridge humming seemed too loud. But through it all, she stayed locked in. Calm hands, sharp eyes. By midday, she had already synced the footage to 2 separate cloud drives, pinged 3 people from her old unit, and set a meeting with the sheriff for the following morning. None of it surprised me. She never waited around for help. She made her own way. Always did. But the moment that really shook me wasn't the message. It wasn't the fake cops. It wasn't the threat. It was the gate. When I stepped outside to grab something from the truck, it was standing wide open. We never left it open. Ever. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing taken, just open. And then I saw it. Another envelope. This one wasn't on the porch. It was slipped under the windshield wiper on her car. Same pristine typeface. Same chilling black ink. "You're being watched." I held it up, silent. She glanced at it, nodded once, and immediately grabbed her phone. This time her tone wasn't firm. It was surgical. "We're coming in early. Bring the files." But she didn't stop there. She typed out a message to someone I didn't know. 10 minutes later, she turned to me. "I've brought in a journalist. One with a history of exposing corrupt developers and shady board politics. If what I'm thinking is right," she added, "this doesn't stop with us." Her voice was different now. This wasn't about defense anymore. She was preparing to go on the offensive. They didn't just choose the wrong family. They chose the worst possible person to provoke. We left just after first light. No notice, no goodbyes. Just locked the house, packed the trunk, and drove out, like we were ghosts. It felt like an op, because in her head, that's exactly what it was. We didn't head straight to the sheriff. Too predictable. Too easy to trace. Instead, she cut through an old service road she used to train on. Pure muscle memory. We stopped at a rundown diner on the edge of town. Took a back booth. We weren't there for pancakes. We were waiting. He came in like he didn't know us. Took a seat across the room. Didn't even glance our way until she gave the signal. 2 taps on her mug. A pause. Then one more. He stood, walked over, and dropped a manila envelope on the table without saying a word. Then he left. She opened it. Inside, photos, names, wire transfers, property deeds. It wasn't just local HOA politics. It was an entire machine. Developers, fake security companies, HOA board members from 4 different counties. And all of them were going after the same people. Military families, veterans, immigrants, anyone they assumed wouldn't fight back. And at the core of it all, Alec Grant, board chair, property magnate. The same name that had been printed on the bogus violation letter we got after moving in. The same signature stamped on the fake HOA citation. She stared at the name. "He's the one behind all of it." I leaned in. "Then that's who we take down." She didn't answer, just shut the folder, slid it into her bag, and stood up. "Let's move." We left cash on the table and slipped out the side exit. Didn't glance back, but we both knew. It wouldn't be long before Alec Grant realized what was coming. Only this time we weren't waiting for him to send anyone. We were going to him. By dusk, we were parked just outside the perimeter of his estate. Tall gates. Cameras covering every angle. Security guards in black stood just behind the hedges, still and silent like statues. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. We didn't bother with the front. She'd already mapped the perimeter, noted the blind spots, traced the utility easement that cut around the back. 5 minutes later, we were at the rear entrance, unlocked. Maybe an oversight, maybe a trap. Didn't matter. She stepped through it like it was her own door. Inside, the place felt wrong. Not empty, off. The lights buzzed faintly overhead. A shattered glass lay across one hallway. A painting hung crooked, as if someone had bumped it in a hurry. Something had already gone sideways here. Then the voices. Raised, tense. Not angry. Panicked, we crept closer. The main office door was cracked open. Inside, Alec Grant paced behind an oversized desk, his face flushed and glistening with sweat. Opposite him stood one of the fake officers from before. No badge now. Just fear. This wasn't the deal, Alec snapped. She was supposed to get scared and leave. That's it. She didn't scare, the other man muttered. She had backup. Real backup. This is bigger than you said. And that's when my wife stepped through the door, cool as ice. You finally got something right, she said. Alec spun around, stared at her like he'd seen a ghost. How did you get in here? He stammered. She pulled the folder from her bag and dropped it on the desk. It burst open like a courtroom indictment. Names, bank transfers, fake contracts, false violations, all linked to him. Because I don't need a key, she said. Not when the house was built on lies. I stepped in behind her, phone in hand, camera already rolling. You impersonated federal officers, I said. Forged documents, harassed families with military clearance. This isn't just illegal, it's federal. He tried to puff himself up like he still had cards to play. I've got friends in high places, he snapped, voice trembling. You don't know what you're starting. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared. No, she said. You don't know what you just ended. And that's when the front door slammed open. Agents swept in. DOJ jackets, county sheriffs, the journalists she'd looped in, camera rolling at their side. They filled the room like a wave. Alec Grant didn't even try to run. Didn't protest. He just raised his hands and slowly dropped to his knees. I looked at her. She didn't say a word, didn't move. She just finally exhaled.